educated Canadians cannot even find jobs. Stat just came out, and unemployment in young Canadians is at 13.5%.
Okay, I am sleeping outside in this cold-ass weather. I'm sleeping outside downtown Toronto.
Your youth unemployment has surged to 14.2%.
That Canada's homeownership rate has been falling. It's especially bad with younger generations.
Cost of living directly impacts youth crime and increases its likelihood.
A new report says that most of Canadian children have been bullied.
So you want to know why Canadian millennials and young people are struggling when it comes to money today?
Young Canadians are sacrificing their standard of living to protect the housing wealth of...
There is no more cost of living. There is only cost of surviving.
And not being able to afford groceries. I can't afford groceries.
I think people are forgetting that Canadian youth are actually the next generation.
Right now, youth are facing a crisis.
Young Canadians are feeling the squeeze right now as they're calling this a youth session.
Welcome to Canadian Rant, the show where we give a voice to the struggles and frustrations of everyday Canadians. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a crisis that's shaking the very foundation of our country's future, the financial reality for Canadian youth. For so long, the promise was simple: get an education, find a job, buy a home, start a family. The Canadian dream. But for a growing number of young people, that dream isn't just delayed, it's becoming an illusion. We're talking about a youth session, a reality where youth unemployment is at levels not seen since the last recession, even when the rest of the economy seems stable. We're talking about recent graduates, full of hope and student debt, struggling to find entry-level jobs. We're talking about credit cards being used to pay for groceries, and a generation putting off major life milestones, from moving out of their parents' house to starting a family, because they simply can't afford it. This is a conversation that needs to be heard. If you're a young Canadian feeling the financial squeeze, or if you know someone who is, we want to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share your story. And if this topic resonates with you, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next Canadian Rant. Your voice matters. Let's make it heard.
You know, it sucks. Working full time. And not being able to afford groceries. I can't afford groceries. I can't even afford gas to get to work. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore.
You will never guess what I'm doing tonight, okay? I am sleeping outside in this cold-ass weather. I'm sleeping outside downtown Toronto in this cold-ass weather, but to raise money for youth who are homeless, who have been trafficked. We're here with Covenant House for Sleep Out. I am freezing. I've never camped before, okay? I'm obviously going to wear something warmer, but, you know, this is just a fraction of what, you know, the youth in the city have to go through what they have to do, and I just want to go ahead and give back, and I'm 90% of the way, 90% of my goal. I'm going to put a link in my bio too for Covenant House. Please donate a matcha's worth, even if you have it. But damn, if you know anybody, TikTok, do your thing. Blow this up. Make sure you can send it to people who you think will donate. But let's raise some money for the youth. Let's help the community. Let's really help out.
Can someone explain to me how do we live in one of the best countries in the world, yet young, educated Canadians cannot even find jobs? Stat just came out, and unemployment in young Canadians is at 13.5%. You've got the degrees, you've got the experience, you did everything the system told you to do, but you're back living at home, applying for jobs that pay less than your student loan payments. Inflation's at a record high, housing's unaffordable, and groceries are a joke. The craziest part is nobody's talking about it like it's a problem. So how is it in a country this wealthy, generation that's the most educated in history, cannot afford basic life? And this is not fear. This is a fact. This is Canada right now. And no one's coming to fix it. There is no rescue plan. You either adapt or you get left behind. If you're a young Canadian, tired of waiting for opportunity, create one. If you're open to something different, DM me reality and I'll show you what I'm doing.
Cost of living directly impacts youth crime and increases its likelihood. And that is because the number one predictor for youth crime is adverse childhood experiences. So these are things like abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. This is a really good paper with the Australian Institute of Criminology discussing this exact phenomena. The correlation being that if you are from a lower socioeconomic background, a cost of living crisis is going to crunch you a lot harder than it's going to crunch a wealthy family. And this sort of crunch sees a direct uptick in adverse childhood experiences. So yes, cost of living, youth crime, direct correlation. Anyway.
A new report says that most of Canadian children have been bullied, and that child poverty is on the rise. As students return to school, a new report has just arrived. This new report suggests that bullying, poverty, and mental illnesses are on the rise among Canadian youth. It's urging action from policymakers to improve the lives of children in Canada. The Raising Canada report says that more than 70% of Canadian youth between the ages of 12 and 17 experienced bullying in the last year. And more than 13% of children were living in poverty by the end of 2024. There are a lot more statistics that this report digs into, but to read the full story, go to infonews.ca. And then give us your thoughts on everything that has to say and how bullying has impacted you or your family's lives. This has been Jenna with infonews.ca.
Cost of living in Canada is sick. There is no more cost of living. There is only cost of surviving. My girlfriend and I met for coffees the other day, and she owes a little bit of money to the government, and she was crying to me, saying, I don't know what to do. I'm working 3 jobs. I'm a single mother. Like, I can't afford to live here anymore. So she had a call with the CRA, and the CRA ripped her apart. They said, it is unacceptable that you have not maxed out your credit cards to pay us. It is not acceptable that you are paying $1,000 a month in groceries for yourself and your 3 children. You need to cut back. So she said to them, you're telling me that you want me to take the food from my children's mouth to pay your greedy ass when it's your fault that fucking groceries are astronomically priced right now. We are all in this together.
This isn't just financial anymore, it's emotional. And Mental Health Research Canada reports over 60% of young people say that the cost of living stress is harming their well-being, and rightfully so. One mom actually just told me that her daughter won't even apply for jobs anymore. She said, what's the point? I can't win. This isn't laziness. This is learned hopelessness. A 2023 Ledger poll said that 56% of Canadians under 35 are seriously thinking about leaving the country. I personally know someone who already left for Costa Rica, and he said to me, I needed to go somewhere where I felt like a person again. And Canada used to be that place people ran to for a better life. Now it's the thing they're trying to escape.
Oh, hey. So when Parliament resumes, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives plan on asking Mark Carney and the Liberals to wean and then scrap the foreign workers program, giving jobs back to Canadians. Our youth and young adults unemployment rate is 3 times the norm right now. And in response, Mark Carney said no. The foreign workers program is essential to immigration, and it won't be touched. So we're going to keep giving jobs to fucking immigrants, foreign workers, and just screw the youth here? We're in trouble.
Oh, Canada. Your youth unemployment has surged to 14.2%, and it's getting worse fast. Overall unemployment rate has just hit 7%, which is the highest it's been outside of COVID in nearly a decade. But when we zoom in on youth, it's way worse. 14.2% of young Canadians can't find work. Among students that are heading back to school, it's over 20%. And these numbers are within crisis territory. Statistics Canada says that there's been virtually no job growth this year, with just 9,000 new jobs last month, mostly in retail and wholesale. Manufacturing jobs are vanishing, and students are bearing the brunt. If you compare globally, youth joblessness in Canada is higher than the US, the UK, Australia, and even China. So if you're under 25, this economy is shutting you out. And with climbing inflation, a summer job isn't about saving for fun anymore. It's survival.
You can see that Canada's homeownership rate has been falling. It's especially bad with younger generations. And I talked about this in my most recent video about how youth unemployment was going to become a longer term issue as young people can't start entering the housing market if they don't have jobs. Speaking of jobs, let's really get into that knock-on effect. Urbanation mentioned these project cancellations mounting, construction starts collapsing, and Statistics Canada just showed 22,000 jobs lost in the construction sector, or a 1.3% drop in construction employment. That's the pipeline stalling in real time. And policymakers are very reactionary. I'm sure they're going to try and do something about this when it becomes a big issue. I don't know when they're going to realize that it already is. Now, here's the twist. I mentioned a lot of times that we're going to see more and more rental supply, and I was going to push rents down. I call it a risk for the real estate market, which is my clientele. But for the end consumer, and a lot of people watching my videos on YouTube, this is a good thing, right? That's housing affordability being created. If rents are falling, then that's making housing rents through rental more affordable.
Did you know that in Canada, 1 in 5 children who need mental health services will actually receive them? I think people are forgetting that Canadian youth are actually the next generation. Here's a stat that ran from November 25th, 2024 to March 16th, 2025. The report states how youth are having a hard time accessing mental health, that they're facing challenges and even struggling to find jobs. That's why PMAST exists. This is online on canada.ca, where it shows the youth at-risk stats, and it says that youth need help and they're the future leaders. It says it right here. Young people in Canada are the leaders of today and tomorrow. I want you guys to take that in, and if you want to be a part of the change and you want to make an impact in the life and the community that you live in, you'll have to reach out to me, and I'll leave my email below. Even Canadian government is stating that youth in Canada need this support, so take advantage of what we have to offer.
So you want to know why Canadian millennials and young people are struggling when it comes to money today? Because they keep taking advice from people who don't actually have to live that advice today. Here's what I mean. Most millennials and young people are going to be told that you should buy a principal residence because that's going to make you wealthy. But the people giving them that advice are people who bought property, say, 40 years ago, which means if they were actually living today, they wouldn't be able to buy that property. So what good is that advice if it's not reflective to your situation today? That's why I created Wealth Marathon, a place for millennials and young people to actually learn what they need to learn about money and the environment that they're facing based by other millennials that are actually being successful today. So I've been able to buy a home, and the way I went about it is probably not the way your parents are going to tell you to do it, right? So you go to wealthmarathon.com. It's completely free for you to try for 14 days, no credit card required. And if you like what you see, then you can also get 50% off our membership pro package. That's going to give you access to my courses like how to buy a car without being ripped off. Make sure you use the promo code WEALTH2023 upon checkout. Start learning how to make yourself wealthy based on the environment that you're dealing with, rather than taking advice from someone who made success 40 years ago, but it's not reflective to your environment today. So use the promo code WEALTH2023 upon checkout and start making yourself wealthy.
Young Canadians are sacrificing their standard of living to protect the housing wealth of homeowners. Canada could target affordability by creating housing policy that's designed to make housing prices fall. Lower prices mean those locked out of the market as homeowners have a better shot of entering the market, while those who are paying high rent will make payments more in line with their income. Political leaders have judged that their electoral success depends on protecting the housing wealth of homeowners gained from rising home prices over the last decade, wealth they're now expecting to use in retirement. This leaves little appetite to disturb the nest eggs of this strong voting demographic. As a result, politicians shy away from restoring what young people have lost: the Canadian dream that with hard work you can afford a good home. Instead, politicians expect young people to endure the financial insecurity and anxiety that comes with high rent and shrinking opportunities for ownership. Our political bargain expects younger people to sacrifice their standard of living to protect the housing wealth of homeowners who came before them. It's time for us to acknowledge this sacrifice and explore ways to compensate young people for this profound expression of intergenerational solidarity.
Watch our upcoming interview series and visit Gen Squeeze to find out what young Canadians think about housing policy.
Canada's youth were sacrificed at the altar. Record immigration pushed up their rents, it drove down their wages, and ultimately has left many without a job. And yes, all of those new immigrants were new retail consumption. They were new demand. That was the only way that the Canadian economy grew. And we have proof of that happening in real time. So Dad pre-purchased a 1+1 condo in downtown Toronto in 2020 for about $900K cash under his and my mom's name. The deposit was paid in installments to a total of $200K. Occupancy date is now October 2025, and closing would be in months following. I believe he did this as a new immigrant. Wow. Who entered in 2020 from a country whose economy is unsalvageable now. Dirty circumstances overall, didn't tell us until after signing. It got effed up. It was a gamble. Basically thought he could have his degree transferred here to get income and a mortgage to pay the place off. He couldn't. So again, a perfect example of demand that otherwise would not have existed in Canada without mass immigration, which we're seeing.
Let's talk about the job market for young Canadians for a second. This is something that is easy to overlook, but if you're in that spot, today it's absolutely crushing. Your first job as a young person gives you a taste of productivity, responsibility, and agency. Yet today, countless young Canadians are being deprived of this critical experience. The decline in entry-level opportunities, particularly for high school students and those simply seeking income, has become a pressing issue. Summer job postings, for instance, have plummeted by 22% compared to last year. So why is 2025 any different than 10 years ago? In part, it's because of the dramatic rise in temporary foreign workers. In 2019, Canada admitted 84,000 temporary foreign workers. By 2024, that number more than doubled to 192,000 temporary foreign workers. According to the National Post, between 2016 and 2023, sectors like restaurants have seen a 634% jump in temporary foreign workers. Who's to blame? Well, companies are the culprit here, and the government is the enabler. Companies justify these hires by citing labor shortages and applying for something that's called a labor market impact assessment to fast-track foreign recruitment. But it's obvious to anyone with a brain that it's just a self-serving corporate strategy disconnected from genuine workforce needs. And this is why you see so many young people upset with the federal government. It all started after Justin Trudeau was first elected. And then for the last year, the government has claimed that they are reining it in. But guess what? In the first quarter of 2025, temporary foreign worker numbers are up across Canada. This isn't rocket science to fix. The government needs to stop approving so many temporary foreign workers. It just really demonstrates why this Liberal government didn't deserve another chance. So my expectation would be that this problem's only going to get worse for the next 4 years. Look, hopefully I'm wrong, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Young Canadians are feeling the squeeze right now as they're calling this a youth session. Now, I'm going to play the video in a sec for you, but just listen to how they blame the tariff situation for exacerbating this. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think this has been a long time buildup over the last 10 years. Yes, the tariffs have an impact on this, but this isn't all because of the tariff. So listen to the video and let me know what you guys think.
Life in Toronto is stressful for Emma Burke-Kleiman, who's looking for a place to rent with her partner.
We actually today are in a bidding war for an apartment, and it's crazy to see like what the listing price is versus how much people are willing to pay.
The music therapist and teacher says she feels the sting of inflation.
All of the expenses of just your daily living and how much parking in the city might be, or how much just going to the grocery store is, and things really start to add up.
Young people are really getting hit on the head with the trends that are taking place right now.
Some economists call this a youth session because young people are disproportionately affected by this economic slowdown exacerbated by tariff uncertainty. Canada's youth unemployment rate was north of 14% in June, notably higher than 10% in 2019. And new data shows young people and lower-income households are struggling more than other demographics. Nearly half of respondents aged 18 to 34 said they felt anxious about their financial situation. Nearly 40% felt stuck, living paycheck to paycheck. A third of them felt like their life is on hold because of their finances, according to insolvency firm MNP.
People talking about wanting to get married, wanting to have kids, and being like, how? Like, how do we have space for a kid? How do we support them?
There's recession going on right now. It's hard to find a job, keep a job.
A prolonged stall at the start of a career has a snowball effect.
If that cloud does not lift, then we are looking at scarring for, millions of young people who will not be able to launch their lives.
The jury's still out on whether or not the Canadian economy is heading into a recession this year, but the worry is that young people, already stretched financially, are already in a precarious position. Donna?
Okay. If there's any group in Canada that should be protesting, rioting, and raising hell, it should be the youth of this country. The youth unemployment rate in this country right now is 14%. You can thank a Liberal for that. And I don't need to explain in detail why that is. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Who's working at the grocery stores nowadays? Who's working in fast food and retail in majority of these jobs? Temporary foreign workers, international students, visa holders, work permit holders. You see everyone except the youth of this country working those jobs. I've always known that the situation for young people in this country is bad. Bad is putting it lightly, it's fucked. But after I saw this news clip of reporters interviewing thousands of young kids trying to get a job at the Canadian National Exhibition, I realized just how bleak the future is. Because the CNE has posted 5,000 positions and they got a record 54,000 applications. Take a look at this clip and let me know what you think.
In the morning just to put their best foot forward. They say it's been really hard this summer trying to find a job. Here's more from them.
It's very hard for young people to find a job these days, so I'm really hoping I could find one, even though there's a limited amount of numbers of jobs I could get today, so I'm really hoping I can get one.
If I were to look for a job anywhere else, I wouldn't get it, because it's harder to look for jobs nowadays, especially with how many people are moving to Toronto and how many job spots are being taken up.
It's been really hard. I applied to at least like 6 or 7 jobs, and like I haven't heard back from anything, but I'm hoping this is my last shot for the summer.
I really want a job. I'm very dedicated.
I'm very confident. I woke up at 4 a.m. to come here. I'm gonna get it.
I love that last kid's enthusiasm, saying that he woke up at 4 a.m. and that he's gonna get the job. But I hate to break it to you, bud, you're not likely to get that job. Seeing these young kids being robbed of their future genuinely breaks my heart. As a young person, your first job is so important because it teaches you things about communication, about time management, about managing responsibilities. And that helps them later on when they advance their career. But we're not giving them those opportunities early on. And all we're doing is we're delaying their development. It just sucks to see that this government in particular doesn't give a fuck about the youth of this country. I mean, why isn't there an emphasis or push to address this unemployment crisis among the youth? It doesn't take a fucking rocket scientist to understand that this will have massive detrimental effects to our economy and to our productivity later on down the line. Who do you think is going to replace all these aging boomers who are retiring in the next couple of years? It's going to be the younger generations. And if you're not equipping them with the necessary skills and the necessary experience to take over, then you're only setting this country up for inevitable failure.
Something is clearly broken in Canada right now. The unemployment rate for young men is over 22%. Almost a quarter of all young men in Canada are jobless. What do you think happens to a country when that many young men are jobless and hopeless? I don't need to spell it out, but it's dangerous. Meanwhile, the general unemployment rate continues to rise. It's now at over 7%. 66,000 jobs were lost in August. Our manufacturing sector is getting ripped apart by tariffs. Housing is completely unaffordable in this country. Homelessness continues to rise. Immigration continues unabated in this country. We have a prime minister and lobbyists encouraging businesses to hire more low-skilled foreign workers on slave wages while peddling a myth that young Canadians are lazy and don't want to work. A false and deeply un-Canadian thing to say. Violent crime continues to rise. We have police telling Canadians to literally comply with armed and violent home intruders and carjackers, many of whom are repeat violent offenders let out on bail thanks to laws passed by this government. If you shoot and kill a violent and armed home intruder threatening the life of your children or your wife, you get charged. Since 2015, we have lost more Canadians to opioid and fentanyl overdose deaths than we lost in the entirety of World War II. We have a literal drug war being waged on our most vulnerable people across this country by the Chinese government and the Mexican cartels, who are themselves aided and abetted by the Mexican government. Meanwhile, the Canadian government pretends that the Mexican government is some sort of ally to Canada. Now, forget all of the statistics. Do you know anyone in this country that is under the age of 60 and who is genuinely optimistic about the future of the country and their own future? Anyone at all? And does anyone really think that the Prime Minister and premiers across the country genuinely understand how people are feeling right now about this country? Yes, things are broken in this country. This country is in really bad shape. But don't give up hope on Canada either. It wasn't that long ago that things were incredible, that this country was considered one of the best in the world. We can get back there, and we will. But right now, something is clearly broken, and the consequences could be seriously bad.
I heard a new term on TikTok today that made me stop in my tracks.
We are living in the silent depression.
He thinks we are living in times worse than the Great Depression and nobody is talking about it. Let's see what the numbers say. During the Great Depression in the 1930s, the average annual salary of a Canadian was $1,001. Adjusted for inflation, this is $17,202 today. In 2023, the average Canadian income is $59,300. Our annual salary is 3.4 times better than it was during the Great Depression. Now let's compare that to our cost of living. During the Great Depression, you would expect to pay $21.29 on rents, which is equivalent to $366 a month today. However, our average rent today in Canada is $2,078 a month. 5.6 times that of the Great Depression. The average house during the Great Depression was $6,000. Adjusted for inflation today would be $103,109. Average Canadian house today will cost you $668,754, 6.5 times that of the Great Depression. A car was about $600 during the Great Depression, equivalent to $10,311 today. The cost of a new car today is $66,288, 6.4 times that of the Great Depression. To feed a family per week during the Great Depression would cost $10.96, equivalent to $188 today. To feed a family today would actually cost you $340 a week, 1.8 times more than the Great Depression. Keep in mind all of the processed food we have today compared to back then. So, do you think we're in the silent depression?
The stories you've heard today are more than just numbers on a chart or headlines on a news site. They are a profound reflection of a deeply emotional and systemic problem. The financial crisis facing young Canadians isn't just about a lack of money. It's about a loss of hope. It's the crushing weight of feeling like you're playing a rigged game with rules that have changed, a game you simply cannot win. We've heard from new graduates buried under a mountain of student debt, unable to find work that justifies their education. We've heard from young people putting off major life milestones, from the dream of buying a home to the simple desire of starting a family, because the cost of living has made their dreams impossible. We've heard the raw frustration of a generation being told to work harder and pull yourselves up by your bootstraps when the very system is what's holding them back. But the impact extends far beyond bank accounts. Research has shown that financial stress is a primary driver of the mental health crisis among Canadian youth. Nearly half of young Canadians report feeling anxious or stressed about their financial situation, and for many, this anxiety manifests as sleepless nights, depression, and a sense of being completely overwhelmed. It's a cruel feedback loop. Financial stress leads to mental health struggles, which in turn make it harder to find and keep stable employment. The anger and frustration you've heard today are not just rants. They are a desperate plea for a country that lives up to its promise of opportunity and fairness. It's a demand for a future where a good education leads to a good job, and a good job can actually support a good life. We need to stop treating the financial struggles of our youth as an individual problem and start seeing them for what they are, a national crisis that threatens the very health and vitality of our entire economy and society. The future of Canada rests on the shoulders of this generation, and we cannot afford to let those shoulders buckle under a weight they should not have to carry alone. Thank you for joining us on this powerful and emotional Canadian rant. We hope these stories have not only informed you, but also moved you to reflect on the challenges facing our country's youth. The conversation doesn't end here. We'll be back next time to confront another issue that matters to Canadians. Until then, remember, your voice is a powerful tool for change. Use it.